Welcome to Techie Vida with Dr. J, where life and technology intersect. Welcome back to Techie Vida, everyone. Today we're going to explore and dive deep into the whirlwind of tech news and really catch up with our guest today, Marcos Romero. He is really involved and versed when it comes to technology, using social media, leveraging AI. Marcos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me out here.
So, Marcos, I know you just got back from Arizona and you had your fun while being disconnected. I wanted to spend today and talk about things that you missed while you were gone. So, I will start off, in case you haven't been following the news, by something that is interesting. We all use AI, or in the topic of artificial intelligence. I use OpenAI or ChatGPT a lot. And today I was reading an article about how they reached over 400 million users in a given week. Huge milestone, right?
Huge.
But in that topic, I'm curious, Marcos, when it comes to AI, do you use it?
I do. But I use more the writing feature, right? Not really to generate graphics or any kind of...
Do you have a preferred?
I do.
Which one?
I do. Google Gemini, that's kind of my go-to.
How do you like it?
I do. I like it a lot. It's pretty fast. It's easy to use. I used to use ChatGPT, but then I moved on to this one, mainly because I use a lot of Google Docs and stuff like that, applications. But it seems pretty easy to use and friendly. So.
Do you think that these artificial or Gen AI tools have made your life much easier?
They have made it easier, much easier. I still use my own noggin for the majority, but yeah, I can see how it'll make your life easier depending on the type of work you do or what you need to use it for.
And to be honest, one thing that I will share with the audience, Marcos does have his educational career trajectory was around journalism. Right. You're pretty good at writing. I'm the opposite. So for me, leveraging tools like Gemini, ChatGPT, or even the solution for Microsoft Copilot, they've made my life a lot easier.
No, it's true.
I was reflecting, Marcos, and I've done a few episodes on this where I took a step back and I was like, wow, someone like myself who has ADHD and I get easily distracted. If I had access to such solution as a kid,
right,
would I have been much smarter or dumber to some extent? But that milestone that ChatGPT reached to me is really wonderful. Another tool that came out this week was Grok. I know that came out from your good friend Elon.
Your good friend. But tell me more, because I was disconnected for 4 days.
Yeah, no. So Elon was releasing, as part of his XAI, he released Grok, which was supposed to be like superior performance. I've used it. I will say it's good. It's not great.
Okay.
It's not ChatGPT great. One thing I will say, Marcos, and I do have a topic about misinformation. Grok, and this is again just who Elon is and probably his companies, they released a lot of data points and or comparison points tied to the product, how better they performed and all this wonderful stuff. When I used it, I will tell you, it didn't meet didn't really match what they showed in the graphs. Yeah. And a lot of people, unfortunately, were so influenced and politicized right now that they will go to bat for him. And I took a step back and I'm like, really, great that we're doing these, moves forward with AI, but we need to be realistic and not just because it's this person that we're going to all hail this man.
Do you mean that people were not doing their research?
No, some people just have bias, right? And their bias makes them, and again, that's probably the problem with us as a country right now, that we can't really have honest conversations about what it is that we're consuming, seeing, and or using. And that's the part where I struggle. I actually try to approach Grok from a open perspective. It wasn't that great from my end based on all the hype that came around it. But I was really happy to see a product like, ChatGPT come up and really demonstrate. And by the way, you don't have to have an account to use the basic one, version. So a lot of people are going to use these different solutions. They do have Grok 2, which is something that is open, but it's again, it's not as the models and whatnot are not as good as these other solutions, not to mention who's in charge of them, right? If it was someone else, we already probably say, hey, let's give them some slack or cut them some slack there. So in the conversation of AI, Marcos, I will tell you, I was actually Tuesday or Wednesday, actually yesterday. See, I already lost time. I was invited to be a guest lecturer for some college students. And while I was there, I was talking about artificial intelligence. And mind you, my whole meeting with them was to talk about technology and student success and talk about how we could create more avenues for folks to get involved in the tech field or demystify that tech you need to be like this nerd or this smart person to be in it. I am one person that likes to just, be open and be mindful and say, hey, if you really think about it, technology is everywhere, right? You could get into any field. You've seen me, Marcos. I tend to open the door for folks to learn.
You definitely do.
And get involved in tech. And while I was there, I was talking about AI, and a lot of the students posed a good question to me, and it was a great question. They were like, Dr. Ramirez or Dr. Ramirez, we have a question. We're afraid of using AI because some faculty member are using it as like we're cheating or we're, plagiarizing. And, I took a step back and I, yes, I understand where that perspective comes from, but I also know that, it's kind of like thinking about the internet, Marcos, or when Google came out or when Wikipedia came out, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
People were like, you use that, you're cheating and so forth. But for a person like myself, it made me achieve what I didn't think was achievable. And why? I had access to information by searching it and right in front of me. So it goes back to access, right? And really, for lack of equity. And what I mean by equity and access in this topic is we need to educate our young students or anyone in general about using AI, because before you know it, it's going to be way ahead of us. And we're not going to be marketable in the workforce. And we were just talking about how important it is for us to use these tools to make our not only does it make our life much better, but it makes it easier. The other thing they brought up, and I was really intrigued by this one, was, when one of them said, hey, Dr. Ramirez, I use AI, and being a person of color, being raised and speaking a certain language, like I grew up in Compton, I speak a certain language, by that I mean I speak Compton. I always joke around. Right. She also was like, I have a similar thing, and what AI has helped me is I could engage or be involved, like basically, create a response or submit a response and in my language. And it could be like something that is unprofessional and it makes it professional.
Right.
I might be like upset and I could say, make this nice, right?
Correct.
So from her perspective, it's like, hey, it's helped me a lot outside of all of this stuff, right? So on one point, I'm trying to like break away from like what some faculty believe. I think they just need to get with the times and start to help students be or critical thinkers when it comes to leveraging these solutions, and also think about helping them with disinformation or misinformation in that spectrum.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I told the students there that, if we don't engage in it, Marcos, and I say this as for myself and for my daughter and my mom, it's what bias is it going to create if people don't use it or if your voice is not used, right? Because you're typing based on how you type or and sometimes you could use voice command and it creates voice command based off how you talk.
Exactly.
So the question is to really make sure that artificial intelligence or Gen AI, any solution out there, consumes information and, the models that are built in the back end take your voice into perspective. We need to use it. That's just the reality. So I was trying to approach it from that mindset and whatnot. But again, a lot to unpack tied to AI that we could talk about AI for days. I will say a big thing that also happened was Microsoft released their quantum chip. Yeah. Right. They released it, and I've been, I jokingly not to say I was gonna invest, but I've been tracking quantum for a while,
Right.
and I am, really a strong proponent of technology and innovation. That when I saw that and I saw the market reacted positively,
Correct.
I will say, that is the next future, and I am curious the impact it'll have as it further develops and it becomes better or more enhanced and smart and more accessible, because quantum computing, and we'll talk about that later, it it will shift the market. I firmly
Mhm.
believe what impact it'll have. I think, for those people that use crypto, it's going to change that landscape.
Oh yeah.
Bitcoin is, for God knows what's going to happen with that, but it's probably going to really shift that. I do believe that countries need to think about leveraging all this technology to create some form of digital currency for their respective nations, not using these other coins that are out there or whatnot. Just thinking of my personal opinion. So again, they came up with these great advancements, and I I was thinking about quantum computing, and I was thinking about, AI and how they're related or how they could be brought up together. And I there's this movie with, was it Angelina? No, Megan Fox.
Oh,
And
which one?
there's like this, it's like this, she's an AI bot, but there's like this huge, what they believed was like, it looked like like a quantum device, the old big ones that are just hanging
Okay.
down,
Okay.
and it was a fake one, right? But I was
Right.
laughing. I'm like, oh, look, that's a quantum machine. I was like,
Right.
they fooled me right there
Mhm.
too. But again, I wanted to just bring up quantum computing in case people don't follow it. Really interesting to like read up on it and see where the future is going to take us. With that said, Marcos, we're going to jump into something that, you and I joke a lot about, but it's tied to everything that's happening
Mm.
after, I got back from vacation, you went on vacation, and I've been just consumed by everything that's happening out there. You know, the the administration and, a person like Musk
Mhm.
and what they are doing right now. You know, the whole misinformation piece and the vulnerability security, we could talk about the Department of Government Efficiency that he has.
Right. Right.
I, I was taking a step back, Marcos, and you and I worked in fields where if you created some form of vulnerability or exposure to a database, that's it. You're terminated, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because pretty much it demonstrates that you're not qualified.
Okay.
It's not, it's, you're not
Right. In
merit based
quotations,
for,
qualified. Absolutely right.
yeah, qualified, or what they now use, merit based, right?
Merit based.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
I
term.
say that because what happened was the Department of Government Efficiency
Mhm.
left their database that they're running against open, and people were just going in there
Oh,
posting.
really? They did they?
Yeah, and they were just posting some funny stuff, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way, no,
Oh,
it's Elon Musk. But then again, I was like, he has 18-year-olds doing this work,
that's
so
that says a lot.
they were probably drinking some Kool-Aid or something out there. But I took a step back and I'm like, wow, this is the person in charge of government efficiency, cutting through, or, looking into like all this when it comes to how the people are managing the funds when it
Right.
comes to the federal level.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, if he skipped this beat, what has he not skipped? And, I just want to stick in the topic of technology, the exposure, vulnerability, and the risk, because he's getting access to a lot of different systems out there, right? The latest that I read, I haven't followed up on it, was like him trying to get access to the Social Security
Yeah.
and all this
Sensitive
stuff.
information.
There's a lot of sensitive information, and for people that are like good, cut through all the waste and all this stuff. How do you balance that with you know your information? Like, are you okay handing over your information? And maybe, do you think that's okay, Marcos? I'm curious.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about that whole situation and everything that's going on and losing trust, gaining trust. I don't know. It just everything sounds a little fishy to me. I don't know qualifications, right? Are they qualified to do what they're doing? Who's vetted them? You know, the American people are now they're Back and call. I don't know. Just
No, I think to that point, the other part that I will say, Marcos, I am a proud patriot, proud.
right.
I love this country.
Correct.
I think where I get upset is the rhetoric behind what we don't know, and I say this because Elon Musk is a businessman,
Right.
and the moment we hand someone access to our bank,
Oh yes,
you
absolutely.
know, do you really think they're gonna just leave your information and your money there? No, they're probably gonna grab it and do something with it. To me, it's what does that mean in the scheme of things, and how much exposure are we putting ourselves to with countries that don't like us, Russia, and are competing with us,
Mhm.
China,
China, correct.
and for me, it's like, wow, we are this great nation of really smart and great people, but we're letting someone drive what's happening. And that is what boggles me. And I have nothing against people not born here, but
Right.
it's more of like, the irony behind everything that's happening out there.
The
But for
rhetoric
me,
that they're pushing.
yeah, well, for me, it's really the fact that we've seen so much happen in within a month,
Right.
and the, for technologies, the risk that it's put us out there
Correct.
with.
Correct. Correct.
So I was thinking a lot about that, and I'm like, wow, how do people not see this as being a big problem? And maybe some of us do, some of us don't. We have our own opinion tied to that, but that's one piece of the pie. To add to that, it's having so much power and influence. You go out there and you spread lies or misinformation. And for me, I'm not trying to get political, but I am getting political.
How can you
it,
not? You have to
it's like these are people that some folks admire and
idolize.
idolize, and you know, he's probably the most polarizing figure right now. And the reality is, you're out there talking in these avenues or channels, and like there was they talked about bringing some astronauts that were stranded, Marcos, and I was like, wait, what
Oh,
did I
recently?
miss?
That happened
Yes.
recently? Oh,
I'm like, what did I miss?
me too.
Then I started to research again,
Right.
read,
Right.
and I saw that it was fake. Basically these astronauts were already pretty much on their way back, and I'm like, wow, what agenda do you have that people are going to eat this
Correct.
and probably say, let's use SpaceX over NASA, right?
Right.
And where do you separate the interest of a capitalist like Elon? Not let's not use capitalist, a oligarch like Elon Musk, who his vested interest in the U.S. I mean, again,
It's
going
huge.
back.
All the contracts.
Well, not only the contracts, but does he really care about the U.S.? Is where I'm getting to.
Absolutely. That's great
I,
question.
I'm just throwing it out there
Yeah.
because he's trying to go to space. So there's something that I don't know. But again, I'm not trying to get political.
No, you're doing fine.
But again, misinformation,
Yes.
taking it all back,
Yeah.
vulnerability and risk with the product
Yeah.
are, really some interesting things that I just, wow, I would find outrageous, and a lot of people would get fired for. That happened. And then on top of that, it's the just, I, you know, I take a step back and I'm like, wow, this person, and he's losing a lot of revenue, by the way,
Who? Elon?
yeah,
Is
with
he really?
people
Oh,
are no
yes, with
longer purchasing
Tesla.
Tesla,
That's
so
correct.
they
You are correct.
they dropped in sales, and
Yeah.
then the their Cybertruck, or
Yes. Okay.
some people call it, I think you called it Cybertrash, but but
I like that.
no, but you were saying that the la, the late la, the latest thing that I saw happen was this person had a $400 million contract with the government for those Cybertrucks.
Oh, I heard about it. Yes, I
Yes,
did hear
and
about that.
I was, I was like, wait, you know, again, technology is great, but where do you really separate
Personal
those?
interest?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
are you going to fully vet yourself the way that you're
That's
trying to, that's one piece. In the scheme of things, though, just, for anyone that's looking into the database, I was looking or doing some research, and I think you and I looked at this, Marcos. It, in the scheme of things, what they found so far, because I haven't seen a lot of evidence tied to the database and the risk they put there, it's last I saw was like 0.0003 of waste that was found, right?
You're correct.
And I'm curious, like, in the scheme of things, what exactly,
What does it translate to?
what noise are you making behind this? What is the agenda that people don't know about? But I was really trying to like disseminate everything happening, think about that. And just to add to that, I know that in Brazil, he recently had he was ordered, or X, his company was ordered to pay for misinformation.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and see, this is the part where, I mean, here in the U.S., we'd be rich,
We
right?
would be rich for all that misinformation.
If I got paid $1 for all that I find out there, I'd be loaded. But what I'm getting to is, we have freedom of speech, rightfully so. That's the beauty about this country. One thing that I just, find interesting is other people see it, but we don't. Or other countries see it and we don't.
Or we choose not to see it.
Now, that goes back to the beauty of the good, the bad, and the ugly with technology that I always talk about. Technology has done great wonders, but it's also served as something not so good, right? It's given folks like that an avenue to not say, and there's a lot of people that are doing this, spread hate, right, through these channels.
Really?
And I am like, wow, we're in 2025.
Yep.
And here we are 30 days in, and, I'm trying to breathe and understand all that's happening and follow technology. I'm really big on technology, but every time I'm looking and trying to like track, there's every 10 seconds, there's something new. And people ask me like, hey, like, that's just the landscape of where we live. And I'm like, no, like, I think we're doing this intentionally. And then there's something hidden behind it. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot tied to how a lot of these folks are leveraging their portals or avenues, their sites, social media, you name it, to really expand on their goals and initiatives. That's just the business for them. And for us, it's really just all that misinformation, all that we consume. And social media has been great, but again, it, like anything else, it's also been another avenue. You like social media, Marcos?
I do. I'm guilty of having a TikTok. Right?
Well, you're not banned?
I'm not.
Oh, I haven't followed up on that.
Well, we were for a little while, but now we're all back on there because our Lord and Savior brought it back.
Oh,
supposedly.
Wait. You're referring to Jesus Christ?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
But see, there's another avenue of misinformation that it provides. But yeah, I mean, social media, is controlled. There's no real free social media, I don't think. There's people getting banned or blocked or censored in either direction, I think. But all of a sudden, since our new administration has taken control, that I see a lot of right wing, we'll call it propaganda, that's flowing through social media faster than it used to.
I try to balance, Marcos, all that's happening out there as an independent person, and trying to like have this middle ground, trying to see perspectives. It's something that sometimes it's too hard to like really lean that right way or towards the right. But I took a step back and I was looking at like, okay, who's benefited the most? And I'm talking tech since that inauguration date till now. And, I see the people that sat in the front row of the inauguration, tech oligarchs. They've generated so much money.
Absolutely. Within a couple of days.
Yes.
And not even the full month, but yes, within a couple of days.
Elon Musk, because that's his right-hand man.
That's correct.
And some people say his son is the one running the country. I take a step back and I'm like, wow, and nothing against them. And by that, I mean, they made their wealth. This is part of capitalism. This is part of our country. But for me, it's like, a few have benefited and a lot are supporting without thinking about the effects it has on them.
On their own.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
that's where I really find interesting. I mean, we could talk about Jeff Bezos. We could talk about who's Facebook, who owns Meta.
Oh, Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
Right. Yeah.
All the money they've earned with this. It's just a lot to unpack. I am a big tech person, a big tech enthusiast, and I really love a lot of what they've done. You know, I I forgot to share this. I was looking at the Apple and their new iPhone. I think it's the 16e or something.
Oh, I
like
saw that
that
too. Yes, it's supposed to come out. Yes.
Yeah, and I looked at it, and I am guilty. I love Apple.
I know you do.
Yeah,
Yep.
I am everything Apple.
Yep.
I do have my bias, just for everyone out there. Move away from Samsung.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah, move away from Samsung. If you give me a green bubble on my phone, you're probably going to be blocked.
You'll never reply.
Yes. No, I was looking at that phone, and I was thinking about, like, they're just repurposing old phones at this point and selling them at
Right.
a low cost.
I don't. $700 is a low cost for a 16e.
Marcos, eggs are steak right now. They're prime.
You know what? I could trade a carton of eggs for an iPhone probably right now.
Talking about that, not to move away, one of my friends, Marcos, posted, I am trading 4 carts of eggs for a Dodgers opener.
Hey, you know that I'm a huge Dodger fan, so
I know.
I'm gonna stock up on my eggs.
I was thinking about that. I was like, "Oh, this is pretty funny." But no, and you know what? This show is about tech and life, so we could talk life all we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing, Marcos, I will say, and I know we chatted before you left. I was in Peru.
Yes,
and I talked briefly about Peru in my other episode, but I was in Peru and I was thinking a lot about what we and this is, again, I love this great country. What we do have here, for those of you that are well traveled and you get exposed to out there, you start to really, like, see the inequities.
Oh yes.
You start to see the impact of oligarchies. And I just came back and I'm like, wow, how are we allowing this to happen? Like, are we going to be that next?
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that that's where we're headed? Or that's their goal?
Let me ask ChatGPT right now and see if I'll get a response. That way it's not coming from me.
Okay.
So based on what ChatGPT is saying right now, Marcos,
I see it.
And again, I'm reading my screen word by word. It's not coming from me.
Okay.
I do think that there is a risk to our country.
I agree.
And wait, why is it saying this is a smart model.
It is. The first
No, I think there is a risk. I will say that, there's a lot of comparison, like, the fact that the White House posted this king picture of this person, and, we're now creating these friendships with dictators. Putin.
Yep.
I grew up, Marcos, in the 80s where we didn't like, that was like the Cold War, like, we thought about it, everything we watched.
Correct.
And maybe that was something that influenced us or whatnot. But I saw that, and we saw the impacts of communism and socialism.
Right.
Everyone has their own thoughts and opinions tied to that, and I respect them. But it's really impacted and affected some beautiful places and spaces. And there's no right answer, but I look at this person and what he is trying to achieve with being labeled a king and or a dictator, an autocrat, you name it. It's idolizing people that we don't want to be, or countries we don't want to be.
Right.
And this could be Venezuela, this could be Cuba, this could be Russia, and there's North Korea, you name it.
Right.
And this whole time, as a capitalistic society, it's, how is that okay? And maybe that's just me and my thought process. And thank you, ChatGPT, for answering that. You are really smart.
They are.
Yeah, this motto is really.
I can vouch.
Wow. There you go.
There you go.
That came from ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, straight from the computer's mouth.
Anything else you want to learn about Peru, Marcos?
Yeah, I mean, how was your overall trip? I mean, the culture, the what do they have? The little alpacas or the llamas? What do they have?
Oh yes, again, I really love the culture. I've been I recently went. I was in Colombia not too long ago, but Peru to me, it really humbles you, makes you feel grateful. I will say, it. I came back, Marcos, with just amazed at how innovative and forward thinking the Incas or the other native tribes were, just so advanced during their time,
Right.
right? That trip was tough, but I take us look back and I'm like, it's beautiful. How did they manage to, like, Machu Picchu?
Machu Picchu. I was going to bring that up
How,
because you showed me
like,
a photo. That's
yeah,
right.
how did they do that?
I
And
can't even
how
remember.
advanced were they? But in when I look at it, I'm like, I'm really proud. These are people that could be a reflection of the Latino community,
Right.
or the people from the Americas. And by the Americas is everyone within North, South, and Central, right?
Correct. Right.
And these were folks that really paved the way in a lot of different aspects. And here we are today, right? There's a lot of European Americans now that have you know, contributed to this country. And at the same time, some people say they've committed they based off of genocide. But
Yes.
I I
ChatGPT said that.
I won't get much into that. I will just continue to say that the amount of progress or thinking back about the progress and
Yes.
whatnot, and it wasn't perfect, Marcos. I think one thing that I loved while I was out there and engaging folks was, it was a cycle of larger tribes taking over smaller tribes, right? Like the Inca Empire,
Right.
it seemed like the Roman Empire, they took over the smaller groups. That's they ran it. It's a system, a business, you name it. But I was really impressed by what they did with the roads, with the trails and whatnot during their time.
Mm-hmm.
What I also found interesting out there was, with everything happening here, I was curious about access to technology and what they're doing out there. And I will say a big trade partner right now in the Americas, or Latin America in general, it has become China. And, they're providing tools, equipment, tech devices at a more accessible than what they probably would have done trading with the US.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. And maybe because a lot of it is produced out there. So
True.
I think that, we as a tech country that's innovative and we're dominating the industry, we really need to get, ahead of, like, how do we build these partnerships? I don't think it's going to happen in the next 3 years.
I
I'll
don't
tell
think
you
so
that.
either.
I
That's a big word to fill. Partnership.
Partnerships. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be something tough, but I will say, in the scheme of things, competition is good. By that I mean, we saw what, when DeepSeek and now all these AI tools and these
Correct.
European countries coming out about AI, it really starts to create a competition amongst these smart, intelligent companies, people, you name it,
Right.
that now have to get ahead of the curve with what they're developing, how they're developing it.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that, that would make someone that is in the efficiency unit
Mm-hmm.
focus on their business. Like, hey, that way I don't have to be concerned with my car. But
Oh, what would that be?
but I know that that's not going to happen anytime soon, because that man everyone's made money with this, what's happening. I mean, yeah. Okay. Anything interesting from your end on your trip? Anything tech related, life related you want to share?
No, I mean, I was in Arizona for a rodeo for 4 days. That was pretty fun.
Was there any AI bot rodeo?
No. It's
Man,
funny
a
because
robotic?
nope, no. I wish that would have been. I mean, that could be in the near future. I mean, I don't doubt it.
You should develop that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, they did have, the mechanical bull. So that still hasn't changed, and people still fell off of it. I still fell off of it. So, but, tech-wise, I mean, Arizona and the rodeo, I was kind of in my own little world for 4 days. Shut off. That's why I'm glad I was able to meet up with you and bring me up to speed with everything that's happening in the world tech-wise, because honestly, for 4 days, the world stood still. I was content. I will say that I was content. I did have, my cell phone, but I try not to pay attention to the news while I was out there because it just, it's been a downer and everything that's going on and aviation, this and airline,
Oh, that's a true.
right? I mean, that one, I drove to Arizona, so I felt safer, but flying right now, I'm feeling a little jittery about, to be honest. It's not.
I completely forgot that that's a key thing. What's going on with all these different plane crashes?
And exactly, and with the advancement in technology, you'd think that it would somehow minimize. You should feel a little safer, but I don't know. I think everyone that I talk to, they're all a little on edge, and I have friends that are flight attendants that I fear for, because I worry for them, their safety, because they're just doing their job, making a living.
Yeah, I fly a lot,
I know you do. You travel a
and
lot,
I've been seeing a lot of that, and knock on wood, everything turns out for the better. But you mentioned it right there, like 2025. We're you know we're we're,
right?
we're talking about orbit and space and taking over. We can't even fly a plane at this
Right.
point.
45-minute flight is gonna scare the hell out of me.
And they want you to go to Mars.
Except, can you imagine? Oh yeah, let's just
No,
book a trip.
oh my. See, in the scheme of things, here I am. Like, why can't we create something that is enhancing or improving the airline industry,
Right.
understanding all of our advancements and innovation? And this is for the safety of people,
For the safety of people.
and I know that there's a lot of things that we don't have control over, but we know about that. So how do we create a product or a tool that'll be able to sustain all these different elements?
Right.
And that should have been something they should have done in the government efficiency office, like airline efficiency or something
Airline
like that.
efficiency.
Something more important than what's going on. I don't even want to get into the Department of Education right now with all that's
Oh
happening,
yeah.
because that's something I am monitoring, like what impacts or downstream effects it'll have in when it comes to technology and access to the students,
Exactly.
or people in underserved areas,
The
right?
public school system is gonna suffer in the low income neighborhoods. Absolutely. I mean, as is, it's hard enough for them to, like you said, have access. And I know you've always been huge on access to technology at every age.
Yeah.
And so I know that, like you said, you yourself could have been a different person, maybe, right? If you had access at a young age.
Yeah, I and that's the part that I am tracking, what impact it'll have, and how do we provide support to those marginalized or affected communities that are
Right.
going to see the effects of everything happening. I still don't know. I'm seeing things unfold as they go. It's been a month, but I am trying to think about everything. And this is again where I I think a lot about, Marcos, like, how do we get more people to be innovators, to be in the tech field and create avenues of competition against these companies that have no competition. And I'm thinking about education from that element. Like, how do we
Oh,
really
right.
build
Absolutely.
or create that pipeline?
You have to nurture from the start, right? From
Correct. And now, if we create something that's unbalanced or unequitable, and I know people, this word equity is sensitive to everyone,
right.
but if you don't create that, you're literally creating a world that's not fair. And some people, we could sit here and talk about what is fair and what's not fair, but the reality is, there's a lot of talented individuals that do benefit from a lot of these services that are out there, and they could be the next. And I know he's gonna like this. They could be the next Elon Musk,
That's
right?
correct. That's absolutely. They're removing opportunity.
Yeah, American-born Musk, for all I know. But that's the part where, and they're not only are they removing opportunity, it's competition,
Right.
because the more people start to enhance their knowledge, their skills, and whatnot, you become a competition.
Yes, that's correct.
Either A, you could go out there and build your own solution, build a tool that's going to compete, or B, you're going to work within that, and they would benefit having talent. That's the part where I'm like, create opportunity. It's good for everyone.
Yes.
So I'm curious where that'll take us. But that is, I'm not trying to go deep in there right now because I'm trying to see that unpack. Maybe we create another episode tied to that. Marcos, I know we're getting to time. I do want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Absolutely.
It's been an incredible, conversation.
Yes.
A lot of political pieces came into this tech thing. We saw ChatGPT talk most of the time based on what we heard.
It's responsive.
But I hope our listeners out there, learned a lot. Just wanted to really thank everyone for tuning in today to Techie Vida. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of tech. Thank you, everyone.